the gold nor the silver now, Fabio. Uh, the silver, the move in the silver, I mean, we closed, I'll show you where we closed the silver. I mean, when you exit long doesn't mean necessarily that you have to take a short. I mean, this is the this was where we bought the silver around 29, and we sold it a couple of days ago at 42. Even though we have this decline, this doesn't mean that you have to take a short here. The reason being is one of the factors that moved the silver was the raising the margins from the exchange. And usually when they increase the margins, especially by the amounts that the CME increased the amounts on the margins, that normally leads to and on gold, I understand, that leads to long liquidation. I mean, people are getting long because they are getting out because they are forced to get out, because somebody did buy it here at 48. I mean, if you did buy it from here, if you're long from here, and they come and raise the margin over here, it doesn't make any difference to you because you already have a profit cushion that you can stay with the trade. But there are some people that who are usually late to the party that actually did buy it over here, because I mean there is a tick right there. This is a transaction. Somebody did buy and somebody did sell it there. So this person is already losing money and they raised the margins on him. So all these guys over here at the top end of this move, everybody at the top end of this move has not been sharing into the profits from the big move to the upside, and they have now increased the margins for him to hold on to a losing position. So that will force a long liquidation. And the more these weak hands are trying to get out of their positions because they were unfortunate coming in late, or they didn't know better, they will force some of the guys like us to take profits, because we don't want to give back. I mean, if this was the entry going long at 29, what's the point in staying till here? I mean, I'd rather go out at 42 and capture $10 or $15 an ounce of silver rather than giving all the money back. So even though we're not bearish, but we had to sell to get out of the profit. If you're short from 44.85, Fabio, then well done, good for you. That's brilliant, well done. At what, Tony? 44.61. Yes, that is correct. There is a structure here. But that is for another story. Yes, you have a structure, and you did get the capitulation, so you're paid on the structure if you have taken the short. Okay, let's get started. Okay, as I was saying to everybody before the rest of the guys just came in, hi Femi, hi Morag. As I said, it was really an excellent trading week. We had a very successful week in trading, and these are some of the points. Just want to go quickly by them. And the reason I'm doing this, I want you to see that when there is a price point, that it is also an entry point and a structural point, one and the same. These were the ones that paid us the most. So the ones that paid us the most was the dollar yen, because the structure was at the short term, and so it took us you'll see that it took us all the way down. The same was with the pound dollar, 166.62, and it went all the way down to the 162 level, about 400 pips on that trade. You could see also we had the euro yen and the we had about 400 pips on the euro yen. Today it's trading at 115.36. The structure break was at 119.64. That's another 400 pips. If you took the short initially, that's about 500 pips. The same thing with the euro dollar, from 147 to 143, another 400 pips to the downside. You see the euro Aussie 136.58, and it's pretty close to the structure. You also had another 400 pips. So we had a sum total this week of about, I didn't really actually add them up, but from what I'm just seeing on the radar screen, we had several thousand pips on that week from last week. So again, we need to just keep in mind that whenever we have a structure point and an entry point at the same time, that would be something that you should consider in your portfolio selection, in choosing the trades during the day. Okay, so we're going to start like we start every week, by looking at strengths and weaknesses, so that we can identify the hierarchy of which currencies we're going to be looking at buying and which currencies we'll be looking at selling. So we start with the dollar. This is the dollar index, and interestingly enough, in the last 2 days or the last of the week, we had very big moves to the upside, and these moves again, they are, they're probably like short covering rally or some profit taking. We don't have any real trend change in the US dollar. It is still technically extremely weak. We would not be looking at a trend change unless it trades above the 75.94 or the 76 handle. That could be, if we're going to use a justification or try to identify something, that probably might be the liquidation that happened in the precious metals, because this move that you see in the US dollar was accompanied by a move. Let me turn off the strategy. This buying that you see, this move, that was in treasury bills. These are the US treasury bonds, and this means that there has been a lot of buying coming into the treasury. So this means that money was going from one safe haven, which is the precious metals, and going into another safe haven, which is the treasury bonds. The stock market, the U.S. stock market, the S&P and the Dow Jones have all turned, giving us initial sell signals, and this is the move that you see here is also a seasonal move. It is usually at the time of year when there is a lot of selling comes into the stock market in the S&P and the Dow Jones, and that the money goes into treasury bills. I mean, the saying in the market is come May, sell and go away. So usually the summer months are slow months for the stock market, and usually hedge funds or the big money, if you will, would exit the move from the stock market and go into treasury bills or precious metals. So at this time you're having the sell-off coming into the precious metals, gold and silver and copper. Copper is actually has broken down into a structural failure. So all these money are coming out of the safe havens of the currencies and coming out of the stock market and getting into now back into the treasuries, and in order to get into the treasuries you need to buy the US dollar. Okay, so with that we can expect possibly a continuation in the US dollar, and we should be looking for again some continuation, again short covering. It is not yet a trend change in the US dollar. The trend change would be if it goes, the index goes above the 75.94. So the dollar is a short covering. If you look at the Australian dollar, you see we had just last week some sell-off, but the Australian dollar is still extremely strong. It is still the strongest currency, and we should be looking, that is just a pullback. It is not by any means a trend change. So that Aussie dollar is still one of the strongest, and the US dollar, we're going to put it in the category of the least of the week, as it is in the beginning of a short covering rally. If you look at the Japanese yen, this was for the last 4 weeks we had, again, this was the short covering, as I mentioned the week before, that we were in a short covering rally, and this is now, it is the same setup that is being worked upon or being built in the US dollar. So the number in the US dollar was the 76, the 75.94. In the Japanese yen, it was the 118 and the 119, and it took us all the way up to the 124, took us to the high of the 125.70, but now we came back and closed below the 124.75, and that is now a sell signal in the Japanese yen. So I would be looking for the Japanese yen now to be one of the pairs I would be looking to short. Janet and Mike, there are some people just joining in. If you're getting their email addresses, could you send them the password, please? If you look at the Swiss franc, pretty similar to the it's pretty similar to the it's slightly weaker than the Aussie dollar, but we do not have any sell signal as of yet in the Swiss franc, and that again might be as a result of the knee-jerk reaction that we had in the raising of the interest rate in or the margin rates, as I mean, in the for the gold and the silver or the precious metals. The Canadian dollar is also weakening. This is what we're doing, Liam. We're doing Forex right now. We're trying to find which pair to buy and which pair to sell, Liam. Okay, so this is the euro. Also, we had the sell-off that came in last week, based on the news that came out of Greece, and it's still above the structure point. It is still above the 142.47. So yes, we had about the 3-week about 3% decline in the euro, but yet we are still above the structure. So having said that, with the way we are going to be looking at now at setting up our hierarchy, or looking at the pairs to buy, or I'm sorry, also the British pound has been extremely weak, because we had a structure point. You will see it on the intraday, which was the 166, and we broke below that, turning around, and so we do have a major sell signal on the British pounds. So we're going to do the hierarchy right now. So I'll be looking at the Australian dollar to be long the Australian dollar. I will be also looking at the dollar, as I'm just gonna give it a buy signal, a slightly buy signal, but I'm going to look for a major entries before I go along the pound. The British pound now is extremely weak because it's below a selling point. The euro, believe it or not, it's still we didn't have it. We will sell it if it gets below the structure point, which is the 142. You're going to see it in a minute. We'll also be looking at shorting the yen. The yen is the one which has given us the major sell signal. So the Japanese yen is a big sell, the pound is a big sell, and I'm looking at the dollar and the Australian pairs to go long. So I'll be buying the Aussie, buying the dollar, might consider looking at the euro if I have a move above the structure. I would be looking to sell the US dollar, the British pound, and the Japanese yen, as well as the Canadian dollar. These are the three currencies where we are going to be looking at. Okay, so these are the pairs that we're going to do, and then we're going to go and do the crosses that Fabio loves.